All right, let's bring up our four panelists. The stage was set for four. We could have had any number of you guys up here as our special guests today, but these four, come on up. Ricky Thompson from Gatesville to Baylor. Bubba Hicks out of Waco Richfield to Baylor. Take a seat, any of them. Johnny Green from Mount Pleasant. And Philip Kent from Houston by way of Tyler Junior College. Let's welcome our four panelists from the 1974 Baylor team. All right, guys. Yes? It does work.
Thank you.
All right, very good.
I was afraid you'd say sit off to the left, or wide right.
I did not say that.
Okay.
You said that. I would not say that. Incidentally, is it okay are you Bubba again? I mean, you were Bubba, you were David when you were a banker, now you're retired.
You'll always be Bubba.
You'll always be Bubba. Okay.
Back to Bubba.
All right, back to Bubba. And welcome, guys. We appreciate you being here. Let me start with this. 1974 Baylor football. Philip, what's your first thought?
Believe.
Believe. Like it. Very good. Bubba.
Kickers didn't think a lot. We just showed up. And I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
But, it was fun. And I'm thinking we're going to win this year. We're going to do good this year. I didn't know we were going to win.
Yeah.
I thought we had a good team.
Ricky?
I just think it was special that the year that we had, the games, the difficult games, but the fact that you're going to have 60-something guys back from 50 years ago, I think that tells you all you need to know.
Says a lot. Johnny, how about you?
I think of the essence of team and teammates and champions.
Outstanding. All right, that's great. That's a great start to this conversation with you guys. We need to fully appreciate 74. I think we need to go back to 73. Maybe need to go back to 72, Coach Taft's first year when he came in. But at the end of 73, Johnny, rough season. You guys were, you didn't win a game in conference, and I think we're picked last in the preseason poll for 1974. What do you remember about going into the 74 season and the expectations, if any, for Baylor football?
I remember anticipation. Everybody was encouraged. I mean, we had good players. We had good attitude. We didn't get many good breaks in 73, and had great recruiting coming into the 74 season. So, I mean, I think there was a lot of excitement and anticipation that we're going to do well.
Good. Ricky?
Well, I think the turning point as far as we knew we were better than 73. I mean, that was just injuries, tough games that you lose, whereas you go to 74 and we won all those games. All the close ones we won. And I think going into that season, we thought we were pretty good, but once we went to Oklahoma, number one in the country, 40-something point underdogs, 7-5 with 10 minutes to go or so. I mean, defensively, our guys completely shut them down. And I think at that point, Switzer came in the locker room after the game. I think we knew we were pretty good. I don't think anybody knew how it was going to end up as conference champions. But I do think, I think these guys will agree that we did think we were pretty good after that point, and we could play with anybody.
Y'all did lead the nation in visiting coaches coming in your locker room that year, didn't you? I mean, that doesn't happen very often. It happened at least twice for you guys.
Twice, Darryl Royal after the Texas game, and Switzer to begin.
And
so,
Switzer.
we may have set a record, too, in 1 year.
I think you may have. Bubba, what do you remember about the expectations? You were from Waco, so you grew up around Baylor football.
Well, I was. This might be a good time to address this because people have asked, what was it like being here to beat Texas. But coming into that season, you have to remember that we had lost to Texas 17 straight times. We were in the middle in 1974 of a real hard recession. On the heels of 10 years earlier, the James Connolly Air Force Base shut down, which is presently where TSTC is, lost 10,000 people. The economy was not good here. We had lost to Texas. We had 11 straight losing seasons. If you throw out 1972, in the previous 7 years, I looked this up, we had won 5 ball games.
5.
Something like that. I mean, we had several offers. And if you carry that forward to the Texas game, we're playing the 7-time consecutive champion Longhorns, and we spotted them 24-7.
Yeah.
So, where were we in terms of expectations and all of that? Not very high.
All right. Thank you, Mary Sunshine. I appreciate that.
The story ends well, though.
But it does turn, and it does get better. By the way, Bubba said in this era when there are debates and things going on, there will be no fact-checking today. So whatever these guys say, take it to the bank. It is gospel, all right, from them, all right? All right. Philip, what do you remember? What was the mood, what was the atmosphere going into 74?
Well, really, I was coming from Tyler Junior College, and we won all our games. and I guess people was trying to figure out, why are you going to Baylor?
Yeah.
And actually, the reason why was because of Grant Taft. Because of Grant Taft. I wanted to come, and I wanted to be part of a team that haven't been winning, but show them that we can win, and we did just that. And I so often think about the love that Brian Kilgore and I had together as teammates, because we was playing on the same, but his position and my position was the same. So I knew that I was coming to Baylor, and there was a great guy by the name of Brian Kilgore, that we was going to be partners, and I love that, and so I think that with Grant Taft, with the philosophy that he used to build us up and make us understand that we really can win, if we only believe that we can.
Believe, back to believe, what you said. Coach Taft, who could sell ice to Eskimos, what was his pitch to you getting you from Tyler Junior College here? What did he sell? How did he sell the program?
Well, really, if you want to know the truth of the matter, that's really was the beginning of a transfer portal.
Yeah, that was it, huh?
Because Grant Taft, he went to junior. I don't know what made him think that way, but he went to junior colleges and started recruiting. He wanted to win right now, and so it happened.
Yeah. Bubba, you guys have mentioned already the start of the season. It was Oklahoma, I think, defending national champions. They were ranked number 1. You guys opened the season there. You've been beaten, as you pointed out, pretty handily by Oklahoma the year before. But that game, sort of the way you played them, the way you hung in that game with them, you lost 28-11, but you hung in there. Was that sort of, did that spark something in you guys?
I think I answered this question yesterday for Matt Mosley. As that game matured and went on, I believe the score was 7-5 right at the end of the third quarter. And somewhere in there we realized we're playing clearly one of the top 2 teams in the country. I think they were ranked number 1, and we were playing them heads up. As a kicker, I have a unique perspective on things. I'm not involved in play calling or yelling. I sit down there on the 20 and just watch what's happening, and I really did. And I like to observe things from the eyes of a kicker. But you could see the confidence, and we were hitting them. And we were. Bill Moore, the slowest guy on the planet, was a punter. He tackled Joe Washington in the open field. Do you remember that play yet? I mean, we were playing well. And after the game, they won. We're on the bus going back, and a couple of the assistant coaches were talking about the team. This is a true story, and I'm not lying. You don't have to fact check it, but I'm prone to that. They were saying how the new recruits had come in, and they've had some freshmen and junior college players, and they said, man, this time next year we're going to be pretty good. And I literally said, Coach, we're going to be good this year. I really think so. And they agreed, and they quickly changed their tone. But that was the mood, in my opinion, of the team, that we belonged and could play. Now, you still got to go do it, and you still got to break that losing habit. And it took us a few games to do that, but we did.
So lose to Oklahoma, but some good things, Ricky, coming out of that game. Missouri, another tough game in week 2. And again, you guys played pretty well against another good team, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. That game in Missouri, I think, coming off the Oklahoma game and playing so well, was a little bit disappointing on the road. We had a couple things that didn't go our way. But then the next week was Florida State. And we're already laughing about this one. No, it was Oklahoma State, I'm sorry. We played Oklahoma State next. Oklahoma State was ranked number 8. We beat them 31-14, beat them soundly. The thing I remember most about that game is a little screen pass to Steve Beard, and a little 5'8" dude goes 85 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, wiggling through people, and from there on, that was all us. And Oklahoma State was a really good football team. Beat them at home. That was a great win. As I said, 31-14. We follow that with Florida State. Florida State, not exactly what they are today. They had a substantial losing streak, much like Bubba talked about us having before that. So we go into Florida State fully expecting to win that game. We're down 17-0 at halftime. So we're going into the locker room. We're not looking forward to that anyway. So we get to the locker room, and the door's still locked. They've got the lock on the door. We can't get in the locker room. They're inducting Burt Reynolds into the Florida State Hall of Fame. So we're hearing all this going on. We can't get in the locker room. They're yelling for somebody to come in, open the door, and the next thing we see is Coach Taft kicking it in. So he kicks the door in, and I said, we're thinking he really wants a piece of us. So we get in the locker room and go through the normal stuff you do when you're down 17-0 to a team that you should be up by 17-0. So we come back out, and lo and behold, they're still celebrating Burt Reynolds. So Coach Taft's standing at the fence. He can tell this a lot better than I can. And he says, somebody get that band off the field. Well, he forgot we had Leslie Benson. So Benson, our defensive lineman, opens the gate, jogs down the field, grabs the band director off the ladder, sets him down, literally, and runs back to us like, I took care of that. So I mean, you hear fans boo a football team. Well, we get booed for taking the band director off the ladder. But I guess it worked, kicking the door in, taking the band director down. We came back and won that game 21-17, followed by a road win the next week against Arkansas, which was even bigger, 21-17 against a ranked team on the road. The last touchdown we had to score at least twice because they called it back, Phillip, for holding. Ike Forte, who I played with in Washington, was on that team, and he scored the second touchdown, I believe, and literally hit flat on his back on the 1-yard line and then just stuck the ball over his head, and they called it a touchdown. So we learned what happened in the hills, and then the fans blocked our bus coming out of the parking lot. Bubba's got on one of those hog hats in the bus, and we take the long ride to Fort Smith, and we got waved at more times than you can imagine, and it was an ugly wave.
Waved at. That's nice. That's a good way to put it. I bet you did. Huge win over Arkansas, and you guys come back home. Johnny, if the story I've heard is that the plane couldn't land initially because there were so many fans that had come out to the airport. Do you remember that?
Yes. That was a first for me. Of course, I was a sophomore, first year on the traveling squad, and to come home to Waco and see, I'm going to say thousands, I don't remember how many, but there were a lot of people there, and I think people were beginning to realize there's a real possibility this year with this team. So that was exciting for us. It was encouraging for us, and we couldn't wait for the next week.
Ministerially speaking, Jeter, that was just under 10,000 fans that were here, okay? Again, no fact checking to take place here. But you guys had turned around. You got a couple of wins. 3 wins already in there. The win over Oklahoma State was huge. Florida State, then Arkansas. Who's next after Arkansas? Who's that? A&M.
Was that A&M?
All right, and we move right past that game, and then coming up next.
Don't even remember the score.
Yeah, no, it was. It did not turn out in Baylor's favor, but A&M had a good team. They may have been picked to win the league, or Texas was probably picked to win the league that year. But 20-0 loss to Texas A&M. Then you guys turn it back around. Johnny, after a loss, I mean, you'd had some good momentum, but that loss to Texas A&M, did that dampen your momentum or the way you guys were feeling about each other?
It was a momentary disappointment, but we kept it in perspective. It wasn't as bad as the score. I mean, we had some bad breaks in that game, and I recall being standing room only in Baylor Stadium, maybe the first time ever. And so we had a lot of reason to be encouraged going forward, and I don't remember who the next week was, TCU maybe? TCU. So my recollection was we handled that pretty well. The next week. So disappointed, but we got past it really, really quick and got back to work.
Sounds good. Ricky, to bounce back from a disappointing loss, beat TCU. I mean, you're right there. You got one loss in conference play. I mean, you're still doing things that Baylor hadn't done really in a while.
Yeah, that's really true. And I think that game was so important after the A&M game because that was a disappointment. The score was misleading. I think we had a fumble. A&M actually fumbled. Carl Roach, their receiver, caught the fumble in the air and went 40 yards for a touchdown. So how many times do you do that? Then we had an interception on the 2 that went in for a touchdown. So really both their scores were not on our defense. They were more on the offense. So really they had 2 field goals. Then we go to TCU. I think it was 24-6, 24-7. Pretty handily beat TCU, and then obviously the next week is back home against Texas.
Oh, so Texas is coming to Waco, all right. Team that Bubba told us very elegantly how good they were, how many times they had won, how many times they'd beaten Baylor. And Bubba, here comes Texas to town. What would you say was the attitude, your guys' attitude as the Longhorns came to Waco?
I hated Texas. If they were playing Russia, I would wear red to the game. So that's kind of how I saw it, and Darryl eloquently said it in the video. To be number one, you got to beat number one, and that was not an easy task. My whole life living in Waco, I saw them beat us 17 straight times. I saw us have them beat several times only to lose. It's an intimidating game. And, past that, kickers don't think much. So I'll turn it over to Philip.
Well, my thing is that when we arrived to the stadium, it looked like it was more orange than anything. And so I was trying to figure out, what is this? We knew that we had to beat Texas because they've been the great team for years past. So I was, I'm kind of saying, can we really beat this team? And when Alcee Jackson caught that catch from Neil Jeffrey, and it blew their mind, but it blew all of our minds because we didn't know we can really start off like that. Then it looked like a turnaround. It looked like, okay, here come Texas. And so when it was 24-7, I'm told that some of the good old Baylor Bears was on their way down Highway 45 going back home until they realized that Baylor is on their way back. And we fought, and we fought hard. And I give that credit to the whole team. We went out and we realized that we really can beat this team. And Darryl, he was man enough to come in and said, now the whole world knows that you all have a good team. Yeah.
So 24-7 Texas at halftime. Third quarter, things turn on a blocked punt. Johnny Green was the first man through there, blocked the punt against Texas that really turned the tide against the Longhorns. You're very modest, and you say you were just the first one through, but there was a lot of guys that were in there to get that big block punt.
And again, that's the only reason I'm up here.
No.
But I am up here. And I just want to say, you know, the least thing you do, you never know how it's going to work out. So everything you do, do it well. And during the week, the coaches had brought to our attention, we saw some weak spots in their punt coverage and their blocking scheme, so we felt like we could block a kick. And so we had worked on this all week and had an opportunity right there. They run 3 and out, line up to punt, and I got there first. So Johnny Slaughter, I think, recovered the ball on the 17-yard line, and a few plays later, Neal takes it in from the 1, the longest 1-yard run in history of Baylor football. Slowest, yeah. But momentum's a big thing in any athletic contest, and the momentum turned there. And we went out and did what we knew we could do. And I'm blessed to have that providential privilege to have been a part of that play in Baylor history. So.
You made the play. Maybe one of the top 2 single plays in Baylor football history. I mean, you think about what that led to, and then Baylor football beyond that. Now the 2021 Big 12 championship game in Arlington, that play Jaron McVay made, it's up there, Johnny, but I'm not going to say it's bigger than yours, but it's up there for sure. And defensively, didn't y'all make some changes against that wishbone at halftime coming into the second half?
We did. I mean, they were hurting us pretty bad with the run, the wishbone. So my recollection is we brought the linebackers up, we brought the cornerbacks up, and Ron Burns made a couple of big plays, and so we basically went to a 9-man front and pretty much shut their run down. So
I was going to jump in there. I think, of course, Texas was so powerful the run, but I think our guys held them to 85 yards in the second half. I mean, it was just incredible. Darryl Lewis, Quiz, saw Tommy Turnipseed, all these guys out here defensively, they're the ones that turned it around, the block play. In fact, Johnny, I'm surprised he came back in the game. I thought it knocked the breath out of him. It hit him so hard. But I'm impressed that he could go back in. But, I mean, after that, defensively, they didn't move the ball at all. They were stuffed.
And Neal is not here to defend himself, Bubba. I think he'll be here tonight or tomorrow. But I remember seeing the video of that touchdown run you're talking about, and I thought, man, that film, and it was film going back to 1974, that film really slows you down. And then I keep hearing from you guys, no, that was Neal at full speed, right, running it in.
Yeah, I think actually he turned it on.
He turned it on. Yeah, that was it. That was top speed. Neal, we love you if you're watching this. So second half, block punt, touchdown. It's 24-14. Was that your touchdown? No, you had the one that made it 24-21.
Yeah, 24-21.
Yep. And Bubba, you were key in that second half. 4 extra points, 2 field goals, part of that big comeback. So there you go. Kickers may not think, but you were a key part of that. You had some opportunities and made the most of them. Yes?
Yeah, people ask about whether it's a miracle or not, but, you know, things were coming together on great time. I think to the fans, it was a miracle season. I was telling my buddy Brian Kilgore, I told him I would get his name mentioned tonight.
It's good. It's twice.
Wingback over here. I had 2 kicks, one with about 2 minutes to go and the other one with about 40 seconds to go. And both of the, Philip had already scored and we had the lead. So we put it to bed or got it up 7-1. And I tell this story on the last kick. It was 45 seconds. And I'd always run over next to Coach Taff who would say, kick it. But he wasn't. He was on the phone talking to somebody upstairs about whether to kick it or not. And, you know, I'm usually not real assertive, but I said, Coach, you know, if we make this, it's over. Yeah. And it was it was a little longer than an extra point. And I said, if he bobbles the ball, I'll fall on it myself. And he didn't hesitate. He said, kick it. So I went out. It was a good snap, great hold, kick. Game's over. And I told Kilgore earlier, I said, I was nervous. I probably had 80 kicks in college, extra points. I was nervous on all of them except those last 2. And I don't know why. I think it's because I hated Texas. I don't know. I wanted to win the game, you know, and that's rare to have that. But it's not about me. I turned around and I looked, and that 17 years of losing was over. And the whole place looked like slow motion to me. Fans yelling, players yelling. It's like it was all in black and white. It was surreal. So it was a big moment.
Philip, you had the touchdown that put Baylor on top, made it 28-24. I mean, you were a key part of that second half comeback.
Yeah, and it was because of Rail Tipton. I followed him through that hole, and he must have just laid that guy out. And, you know, if you move them out the way, I'm coming. And so that's exactly what I did. But I surely give a lot of credit to our line that moved them out the way. And I didn't realize that was going to be the last touchdown. But thank you. I'm glad that I wanted to get that credit.
That was you. That was you. That's great. The story goes that they kept the lights on the scoreboard all night after the win. I've heard that Dr. Reynolds and Ralph Storm and some others spent the night in the press box after the win. Did you guys, I'm sure you were in by curfew that night also. Right, Philip?
Yes.
What was the celebration like?
Well, you know, Coach Grant Taft was real serious about the team. We wasn't at the midnight gathering that they had at all. But we heard about it, and I didn't believe it, but the next day it looked like Waco was just lit up with all kinds of different things going. Baylor beat Texas. That first time in, you said 17, I thought it was 18. Yeah. All I knew that Baylor had never beat Texas in a minute. And so yeah, we was real excited about it. Real excited. See the front page and, you know, Miracle on the Brazos, all that kind of stuff. It was hilarious. Yeah, it really was.
That's fun. Bubba, you had seen a lot of celebrations by the opposing teams. What was that like to see Baylor and the Baylor fans celebrating that win?
Growing up here and having 2 parents that went to Baylor, you know, I think I probably ended up over at our house where there was a large party of my parents' age people. And by the way, my mother is here, 95 years old.
Oh, fantastic.
And Jane Hicks. And I think several of the guys in this stage and in here will remember her as a mom to a lot of the players. They ended it up at our house quite a bit. And but I got to see it from the celebration of the local fans, and it was, from that perspective, you know, there was a lot of fun. It was special.
Ricky, I'm sure that extended to Gatesville and beyond. I mean, huge celebration after that win.
Yeah, it really did. And I think, of course, we'll go back, Cotton Davidson, God rest his soul, was one of the reasons I was here. And I think from Gatesville, receiver coach, you just think about that and with his Baylor background in the NFL. But I think maybe the part that was the most fun for me, and I think probably these guys too, were just watching the fans. I mean, we had a great time, but it was unbelievable watching these people in the stands. I guess generally when the game's over, off the field, in the locker room, you're trying to get out of there. Well, we were down there for 30, 45 minutes, and it seemed like the stands were still full. You know, it was part of that
that good old Baylor.
Still singing
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
It was part of those 150,000 people that were at the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
The number keeps growing.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah, I was at that game. Oh, yeah, I was there. Johnny Frank Fallon, the great Frank Fallon, would always say that, you know, there were taillights of people leaving at halftime. Then all of a sudden, you know, those taillights were brake lights, and people were turned around, and they were leaving their cars, and they were coming back into the stadium. You guys, I guess, wouldn't have seen that because you're on the field, but pretty terrific imagery there of fans coming back.
Well, again, Bubba's made clear, Baylor doesn't beat Texas. It just doesn't happen. Hadn't happened in so long. I think Darryl made the observation on the documentary. Since we started playing junior high football, the University of Texas had won the conference every year. Is that right? 7 years in a row. Yeah. And so we had never, you know, we'd never seen anything but Texas. And, you know, we had great fans, but it looked like it was over at halftime. But they did start coming back, I hear. Coach Davidson or someone, I think, called down sideline to report that. And I do remember, like Ricky said and the others, after the game, we didn't want to leave the field. I mean, nobody.
Why don't we
wanted to
do
leave
a
the
fact check and see who in here?
In here? Yeah. How many people in here were at that game? November 9th, 1974. Pretty much everybody. Yeah, look at that, man. That is great. Woo, that is great.
How many thought about leaving at halftime?
Carrie did. Yeah. Yeah, very good. All right, one of you guys brought it up. Miracle on the Brazos has a great ring to it, you know. But I think I know how Coach Taft feels about that. How do you guys feel about, Johnny, that being termed a miracle, and that was the miracle on the Brazos?
I guess in one sense I understand that sentiment, but for those of us who practiced, watched films, labored together, I mean, we trained to do what we did, and this was the outcome we expected. That's one of the reasons I came to Baylor. I had a few other offers to go other schools, but I wanted to come to Baylor. In my view, the great Coach Bill Lane recruited me, and the vision that he communicated from Coach Taft, the love that I sensed from the coaching staff to the players and the camaraderie and the unity we had in the team, this is what we expected to happen. We expected to win, and we paid the price. We worked out, and we did what we were trained to do. So that's what happens oftentimes. You reap what you sow.
Yeah, and I think, too, to me, miracle may be one game, but it wasn't one game. I mean, you had the games that we've talked about that we won that year. That's not a miracle. I mean, that was a good football team that won a lot of football games, several of those on the road. If it would have just been Texas, maybe a miracle, but I don't think so. Not the way the season went throughout with the wins on the road, the wins at home. I think the Texas game just finally told everybody it's for real. And we're not playing around at this point. And I think even after that, Coach Taft, I think Coach Switzer sent a note of some kind that said the country found out today what we knew several weeks ago. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I think sometimes it's a matter of perspective. And clearly the coaches, you know, they worked hard to get there. They planned hard. Players worked hard, planned hard. We had a good chemistry. A lot of guys that had been there 4 and 5 years. We had 7 or 8 seniors that had been there 4 years and sprinkled in some new talent and had a really good team. So from that perspective, it's not a miracle. But for all those reasons I outlined earlier, the losing seasons, the Goliath, we're playing Texas. There was a bottom 10, and we were in it going into that season. So from New York City or China, we were the Baylor team that always lost. And we lost every conference game the year before, and you can't, from an outsider perspective, I think the miracle is a wonderful term for it, because it does emphasize how great a season it was. And so it doesn't do injustice to call it a miracle or vice versa. So we'll go both directions.
I looked at it. It was kind of crazy. There was an elderly man. I want to think he looked like he was 90 years old. And he came into the locker room and shook my hand, and he kept holding it and shaking it. And I really was trying to say, when you gonna turn my hand loose? But he said, and these was his word. I just want you to know that I'm proud of you. Say, it's been 50 years since this ever happened, and I've been here all 50 of the years. And I thought that was just wild. But yes, we was very excited that Baylor began to get on the map. And so, hey, we still winners, Big 12, here we come.
That is great. And Darrell Royal, the legendary coach at Texas, wanted to be in the Baylor highlight film, so he came in your locker room, as we talked about, to congratulate you guys. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, Switzer had done it, and now Darrell Royal came in your locker room.
Yeah, that's right. And Bubba was probably trying to figure out why that Longhorn. No, seriously, that was an honor. I thought that's very respectful of Darrell Royal, because he was one of the giant coaches of all time. So for him to come and congratulate us for that victory, beating him and his team, I thought that was grand. That was grand.
I can think of one time when Bubba can say anything he wants to about Texas, but I can promise you when they played A&M at the end of the year,
he was orange up, right?
He was wearing orange.
That's right.
Yeah, it changed after we beat them. I didn't know that love them. They're good guys. Great guys. And Coach Taft did a good job of continuing to beat them, and so I actually feel sorry for Texas. But we beat them pretty good.
That's good. Next week is Texas Tech, Ricky, and I can't imagine coming down from that high of beating Texas, but you guys are in the conference race, chance to win the league, but you got to beat a good Tech team that I think was ranked 14th.
Yeah, everybody talks trap games. If there ever was one, it was Texas Tech, because they were good. I think they were in the top 20 at the time, had just beaten Texas, probably the biggest game in Baylor football history to that point. And then you've got another game in 7 days against a really good football team. The final in that game was 17-10. I know it was tied late. Again, defensively played a great game, but that was a huge win. And I guess that's what I'm talking about the miracle perception on our part. That was just another game that we had to win, a very tough game. And if you think through that season, there were 6 or 7 games that were against really good football teams that we won, and very close, hard-fought football games. And that one really doesn't get much attention, but probably should get more just because of the timing, when it occurred, after Texas. You can say forget it, push that game behind. We didn't push it behind. That's impossible.
Yeah. Is your mom texting you? What's going on? Do you have a text you want to share?
I'm going to bring us down here in a minute. But
okay.
That's something I want to do at the end.
All right, hold on then. Don't bring us down.
It's not going to bring us down.
Okay. So, Johnny, beat Tech. You go to the Cotton Bowl and beat SMU the next weekend. Final regular season game is Rice. And was your game on Saturday and Texas A&M on Friday, or was it reversed? Is that right? All right, so y'all gathered in the Letterman's Lounge out at the stadium. And even Bubba was having horns up, and Texas did it. I mean, that game wasn't even close, was it? Texas beating A&M.
My roommate, Mark Jackson, and I, we were talking about this earlier. That was a great day for our team. We all gathered there in the Letterman's Lounge, and it was over after just a few plays. A&M seemed to fumble every time they touched the ball, and it was really exciting. And so, of course, they won the game, and we knew that we were conference champions at that point. So, but that was a special day for our team in the Letterman's Lounge.
Yeah.
Well, I think, too, after that, there was no way Rice was going to win the
Right.
next day. That wasn't going to happen. I guess we were in the Cotton Bowl, but to be outright champions, we had to beat Rice. And they came to Waco on the wrong day.
Yeah. It's probably RA Day, wasn't it? You guys remember RA Day against Rice? Yeah, you're an RA, sure. But big win over Rice, so you didn't have to share the championship. You're outright Southwest Conference champions after that win over Rice, and you're going to the Cotton Bowl, which was huge.
Very big.
Yeah.
We was just excited. We couldn't believe it. Baylor going to the Cotton Bowl, you know. And but let me just back up 1 second. The Texas Tech game, I don't know if everyone knew this, but my brother was playing for Texas Tech. And he told me, and this to be true, he said that when they was practicing at Texas Tech, he was running all of my plays. He had my name on his back because he was a Kent. And so I thought that was crazy. I thought I'd throw that in. But yeah, we was really excited. We wasn't worried about Rice. We knew that if we beat Rice, that was it. We're going to the Cotton Bowl. Yeah. Let's go and eat some cotton candy. Let's have a good time.
Was it the SMU game, next to last game of the year in Dallas, or was it the Cotton Bowl where the sign was last person out of Waco, turn out the lights?
That was Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. And you're there, and Baylor is there as Southwest Conference champions.
It was, obviously special. You know, back then, getting to a bowl game was a pretty big deal. First bowl game we'd been to since 1963. So for the fans, that was a big deal, and everybody went. We didn't win the game, but we were in it. We had a couple key injuries. Quiz was having a great day, went down right at halftime. They had a receiver named Jimmy Cephalo. They figured out our safety was down, and they went deep, and they got back in the game and got in front of us. But we could have and were beating them at half. But that was kind of, wasn't a letdown. Sure. We accomplished a great thing, and it was a wonderful trip, part of a great year.
I'm going to go backwards just a bit to the Rice game. You guys will remember this. That was a cold day. I mean, it was really cold during that football game. But when the game was finished, we didn't hang around too long, and then it was too cold. So we go in, but the ramp up at Floyd Casey, Baylor Stadium at the time, was the whole floor is covered with cotton balls. I don't know who put them in there, but that was pretty cool.
That's great. That is great. All right, Bubba, what do you have to share?
Didn't get asked the question, but we get asked all the time, why did y'all win
My
that year?
apologies.
No, why are you, Walter asked me this several times, why is your team so close?
Huh. That was my next question. Go ahead.
Is it? Well, I could read that and I could feel it.
Yeah.
And, we've got 66 coming back tomorrow. It's amazing. This is a true statement. I'm twisting it a little bit. We were the 1974 Baylor Bears was the last team to spend all 4 years living together in the same dorm.
Huh.
So you're talking about 18 to 22-year-old guys that basically were brothers, living that much time together. Now, I think the next year they moved to Brooks, and so some guys were still in the dorm together for 4 years, but not the same dorm. And we tore that place apart. No, but it was fun, and I think that's a big part of it. And I don't going to do what I was going to do because I'm afraid I can't. There are about 15 people that won't be here that we've lost, and I may have to get Philip to read their names because I don't think I can get it out. But here we go. John Oliver, Coach John O'Hara, Coach Mickey Sullivan, Coach Wade Turner, Robert Wygant, Skip Cox, trainer, Chris Quinn, Les Benson, Coach Bill Scoggins, Kevin McDonald, running back Steve Beard, Billy Tate, Carl Ray, Mike Hughes, Tommy Davidson, Ronnie Eichenberg, Coach Corky Nelson, Athletic Director Jack Patterson, Coach Cotton Davidson, Funky Sam Harper, tight end, Coach Bill Lane, somebody told me Judson Parker, Butch Reel, and this past week we lost Robert Armstrong. So we don't want to ever forget our brothers.
Wow, that's terrific. Thanks for doing that. They're with you, and they're with us today. Very nice. All right, final thought from everyone. Johnny, what is it that makes this, it's a great question that I've had planned all week. What is it that makes you guys so close that 50 years after that season, you've got so many that will be here for this reunion this weekend?
Bubba stole my thunder with some of that. We lived together. I mean, I'd be interested to know how many 74 players is your roommate here? My roommate's here, Mark Jackson. I see several right there. I mean, we were brothers. We were roommates. We had team chemistry. We really liked being together and doing things together, and that's unique. And I just want to say this because I was never a starter. I was a special teams player, but I mean, our team captains, Aubrey Schultz, Darrell Luce, Neil Jeffrey, and Joe Johnson, to me, I was younger, but I looked up to these guys. They were leaders on and off the field, and you look at their lives as they played out. They're great men, and they've accomplished much. But we had so many men like that on the team they led on the field. They were just good guys, and so I think we enjoy seeing each other at these reunions. I mean, I don't want to miss any of them, and. So I think, to me, that's what it was. I had a great high school team, but I've never had the chemistry on a team like we did the 74 team. All the way from coaching staff to trainers, all the auxiliary staff, we just had a unity, and that carries on for years and years.
Yeah, I think these guys have said it well, but I think, remember, too, in that era, there were no hour limitations, Coach Taff. we not only did we live together, we ate together, we had meetings together, and that was till we would go to practice after we had to have our classes finished by 2:00. We'd go to the stadium, practice, come back to the dining hall, which we had to drive back to the campus, drive back to the stadium. Then we'd meet till 8 or 9 o'clock every night, come back. Some of us would study when we came back, some wouldn't. But the point being, we were together all the time. We ate together, we traveled together, and there were no football free agency like we see now. We were here for the duration. So I think not only was it a good group, though, I mean, you can spend that time together but not be friends. And I think the way this worked out, that it was a relationship that I think is what caused 74 to happen. I just think that it was friendship. It was a bunch of guys that were good football players that played hard and got along. We did a lot of fun stuff together. Mark, I'm not going to tell on you for us sneaking out of the dorm to get back to Captain Tennille after curfew, but we did a lot of fun things, not just football. And I think even, I talked to Walter, and I'm not knocking the 80 championship team, so don't take it like that, because obviously what they did was amazing. But Walter said when they had their, I think it was 30th reunion, they had like 39 guys. Well, this is 50, and we've got 65. That's incredible that this group has stayed together like that. doesn't happen. I'm not sure it'll ever happen again just because of the way football works now, the way the game is played, and the way the portal and whatever it may be. I think this was a really unusual, perfect environment for what we were able to accomplish.
Well said.
One thing, because Philip reminded me, I forgot about Dr. Red Covington, and when you think about it, the team doctor, pretty intimate with everybody. But we missed him. He was a big part of that team as well.
Yeah, very good. Philip, final thoughts. Well, how have you guys stayed so close through the years?
Well, I think it's coming back to Baylor and, seeing each other from time to time. And that's basically the way I keep up with the team. Our 10-year reunion, the 20-year, and being in the parade, having fun, just, on that wagon, and it's got 74 championship team on it, everybody waving and throwing candy at you. And I think it's really exciting to come back to Baylor. I love Baylor so much until my son didn't have no other choice but to come to Baylor.
Yeah, right.
And so I had 2 sons that went to Baylor, and I had a daughter that I lost after football season, after I graduated. And to see all the guys, some of the guys came back for that service in Houston, meant a lot.
Wow.
Meant a lot to me. So we're close.
Yeah.
We're close, real close.
Quite a family, quite a celebration this weekend for you guys. I'm so happy for you that so many of you are here. Bubba, thanks for mentioning the ones that are not here, but they're certainly remembered by all of us. Let's have everyone in the room that was a member of that 74 team stand up, please. Look around the room. Look around the room. Terrific. Coach Taft. It is fun. You guys are a huge part of Baylor history and Baylor football history, and I think I'd speak for a lot of people when I say we appreciate the way you have conducted yourselves in your lives after Baylor also, because we could go through a list of the things you guys have accomplished, and it is very, very impressive. So thank you for that. Thank you for representing Baylor so well. We appreciate you being with us today. Enjoy the weekend. All right. Thank you very much. Philip Kent, Bubba Hicks, Ricky Thompson, and Johnny Green.